Now, something has shifted in the global markets again. Oil just spikes hard, stock markets are suddenly looking shaky again, and Bitcoin is quietly pushing towards 80k again. But the most important part that people miss is that all of this is actually connected. Now, if you want to understand what's actually happening right now, then make sure to stay to the end of the video to see where the markets are actually heading next. Now, let's start with the biggest story for today. And honestly, the one that's driving everything right now. So tensions around Iran have escalated again, and reports around a confrontation involving a US warship immediately sent shockwaves through the oil market. Now, oil prices have jumped fast, and we're talking several percent in a single move. And now they're in a kind of a elevated level at the moment. Now, this, it might sound like another geopolitical headline, but it's actually much bigger than that. So now, this region actually controls one of the most important oil routes in the world, the Strait of Hormuz, as you know. A huge percent of the global oil supply passes through this narrow stretch of water. So when tensions actually rise here, markets don't wait and they react to all of this instantly. So that is exactly what we are currently seeing. So it's not just about politics, this is actually about energy, supply, and ultimately the cost for everything, really. Now, let's have a look at how the broader market is reacting. So, we saw on the 30th of April a big push to the upside at $110.93 per barrel. Now, today we did see a push again at about 1 o'clock ish, and the price was about $107.5 per barrel. Now, we do seem to be coming for a slight decline, but as you know, currently everything reacts on news. So if we get something critical happening, say more conflict or more tension, then we'll most likely see crude oil. And so other things might go bearish, like Bitcoin, as we do have that fear factor. People obviously don't want to lose their money. But on the other hand, we'll most likely see crude oil coming up in price again. Now, as soon as oil spiked, stock futures started slipping. Now, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, now they're all showing signs of weakness again after what had been a relatively strong period. Now, we're back in the headline-driven market, so it doesn't matter how strong earnings are, it doesn't matter how good the data looks. If geopolitical risk spikes, money actually moves fast. So investors now pulling back, reducing the risk and waiting. And this actually does create volatility. So even though the market looked stable just days ago, now there's uncertainty here again. And now the uncertainty actually spreads very quickly. You can see, obviously, S&P 500, very similar in structure, but you can see how oil prices affected the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. Now, this is actually where things get a little bit more interesting now, because while all of this is happening, Bitcoin is going up. Now, we have had a push towards that 80k level again, which on the surface looks incredibly bullish, but when we zoom out, the situation is a little bit more complicated. Now, this rally isn't being driven by hype or retail investors like we've seen in the past. It's mostly institutions. Now, large inflows, big capital, and steady accumulation. And that creates a very different type of market. It's quieter, slower, but on the other hand, more controlled. Because crypto right now isn't moving on its own. It's tied to the same forces driving everything else. Now, if stocks come under pressure, crypto obviously will not enjoy that and it will react the way it normally does. But all of this leads to the most important piece of the puzzle, and the one that most people actually overlook, and that is inflation. So when oil prices rise, it increases costs across the entire economy. Transportation, production, energy, everything becomes more expensive. And that pushes inflation higher. Now, why does that matter? Because central banks, especially the Federal Reserve, base their decisions on inflation. Now, if inflation stays high, they can't cut interest rates. They can't cut any rates. And if they can't cut rates, or worse, if they have to keep them higher for longer, that puts pressure on the entire market, Now, crypto struggles, stocks struggle, and even gold has been reacting to this. So, what started as a geopolitical event turns into a global financial chain reaction. Oil, inflation, interest rates, the markets, it's all in a loop. So, when we put everything together, this is actually what we are seeing. So, a geopolitical shock pushing oil higher, that's creating inflation pressure, markets reacting with uncertainty, and even crypto is caught in the middle of it. Now, this isn't just a normal market move, this is a shift in the environment. And the real question now is, can the market handle it? Or is this the beginning of something bigger? And that is what everyone is currently watching. So, currently, the market is very, very news driven and will most likely see the outcome of whatever news we get. So, if we get more tension, more conflict, then we'll definitely see the moves in the market. Now, before I let you go, make sure you guys check out Evedex in the description below, which is a decentralized exchange you can use for all of your trading. Now, as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to speed with all the latest videos so you don't miss anything out. Hit that like button, it will be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you all in the next one.